create jobs. I mean, all these things are hidden. There's money's hidden that nobody knows about. A lot of things I don't want to, because I can go forever. But anyway, that's a long way of
bottom line, the government uses ignorance against you.
Well, but it's absolutely right. You know, it's absolutely right, and we just have to wake up to it. But we don't want to do it in the sense that speech tries to be the leader, and then they shoot him down, and then we're like, oh, we lost speech, and we don't know what to do as a people. We have to be responsible from our standpoint of self, and come together collectively.
Sorry, John. I wanted to say something too, real quick. On that. To me, I appreciate the dialogue, you know, because again, I talked about it in the song "The Trends," and you know, there was a time when this type of dialogue was allowed and encouraged and happening frequently within hip-hop music and reporters. I'm not hearing this dialogue. And so we're talking about it now, and that's the blessing. I think that's one of the many blessings in Arrested Development. Meaning, I think the reason we're talking about it is because it's us. There's some other artists who may not have addressed that same question. So I think that that's good. The dialogue, and it's a dialogue that's on another level. A level of understanding that there is people out here that are that they are in a concerted effort to strive to dismantle organizational power amongst people, the masses. And that's the conversation to me that's the most important, is there's people that are in a concerted effort, they're focused on striving to dismantle any organizational power amongst the people, whether black, white, or anything else. Because this same story is reflected in the Aboriginal communities, as Zay was talking about. We've been over to these various countries. This same story is repeated over and over, and we're not talking about it. Yet they're concerted, they're focused, and we're not. I'm talking about in the game of hip-hop now. We're partying. We talk about it in a song called Bloody. We got the girls got thongs on, and we talk about how much jewelry we got, and that's about as deep as the conversation gets, at least on record. I don't know what people talk about behind the scenes, but behind the scenes is not enough. Because the record is what's going out to millions of people. And it bugs me. It bugs me when I meet some of the artists, and they can talk deep. And it's just us 20 in the room, and we talking deep. But then the 20 million that they reaching on Twitter, we go dumb. We numb out. And we don't say nothing. And there's nothing of any substance that's being said. And yet the people that you're just speaking about, they got a concerted effort on the opposite side, and they're not joking. They're focused. Who's going to win? The people that's focused, obviously. The people that's just lillying and whatever, they're lost. So then we talk about another generation that's gone to nothing. I know that I'm generalizing. There's going to be people that's achieving and making moves, but I'm talking about the people that's not making the moves. That's what Arrested Development is focused on.
Indeed. All right. What's your name again?
JJ.
JJ. You spoke about playing in different blues clubs, so I'm sure your knowledge of the blues is vast. With blues music, you have people like Muddy Waters, did a song about his mojo, and Backdoor Man by Howlin' Wolf and Screamin' Jay. A lot of these artists, through their music, they were able to communicate messages that were very sexual. In hip-hop today, you have a similar thing taking place. I was wondering what your viewpoint is, whether you see a difference in how it's perpetuated through hip-hop music and how it was spoken on through blues music back in the day.
Yeah, I often struggle with that because obviously it is seen in a negative light when, you know, the bling-bling and the over-sexualization and the exploitation of women and stuff in hip-hop. And I think about it because violence was talked about in blues, sex is talked about in blues, but I think the big difference is it's not glorified, and it's not so much as a idolatry problem. I don't even know how to say it. It's not idolized as much in blues. A little more lighthearted, even though there's some truth to that. But in the hip hop realm, it seems to be that's what people, that's their God. You know, they aim for that. You know, I think that's the big difference. because, I mean, after I became a Christian, I struggled with going back to the blues scene and playing, and I was like, well gosh, do I want to be, you know, because I know what the song is about, you know. I used to sing songs about drinking whiskey, you know, and playing, you know, Diving Duck Blues by Taj Mahal, you know, it's about drinking whiskey, diving in a river of whiskey, man, and having fun, you know, and I'm like, well, that's glorification of, you know, a drug, alcohol, you know, so 12 years later, I haven't sung that song since. Now, I'll go back and sit in with a lot of these blues guys, and I'll have fun because, you know, I still have the camaraderie of music. But I think it's the fact that, you know, where you place that that trust, or that aim, or that goal that you go for. You know, you see a lot of young rappers, like, they think that's the coolest thing in the world to sing and rap about that stuff. And I know to some extent it's real life, you know, some rappers, they talk about, you know, selling drugs and talk about the violence because they did live that, and then a lot of others, they didn't live it. They lived in, you know, upper middle class families, you know, and were never in a gang in their life, but they portrayed that, you know, it's not really who they were. You know, it's the same with blues. A lot of blues artists lived it. A lot of blues artists never did live it, but they just like the image of it, so that's what they go for. I don't know if that answers your question.
So it's just the one is more extreme than the other. So.
That's my opinion, you know, is that one is definitely more extreme as far as people, they idolize it more, they glorify it, magnify it more, so and commercialize it. And but you have, you know, sex, drugs, rock and roll. Rock and roll, women, you know, are exploited as well. It's a condition of man. It's not necessarily a condition of a musical genre. You know, I think rap gets a lot of bigger blame for it because we see a lot of turmoil in the black community. You know, when it's not just rap, it's a lot of other things that Speech talked about earlier. You know, so I think it's a lot of things contribute. No one smoking gun. You know, so it's tough to put one thing on.
I'd like to add a little something to that too. I feel like, you know, blues music reminds me of early rap where, you know, from Sugar Hill Gang on out, you know, there was always somebody talking about, I got my women, and, you know, and don't mess with me or whatever, and I got my Cadillac, whether they had a Cadillac or not, you know, and it's always sort of just been a thing. I feel like, to me, that's just, I don't know, it's just sort of part of the culture, you know, and I think that there has been a change where it was no longer just an entertainment thing and just, you know, something to talk about, and it became a lifestyle that determined whether or not you were legitimate and authentic or not. And I think it became more than just, you know, just talking mess, you know what I'm saying, and just having fun with lyrics and wordplay and bravado or whatever else you want to say. I think that it started to take on that the realism, and not I think, I know that it has taken that light lately, where the legitimacy of 50 Cent was because of his past. I mean, he was a legitimate drug dealer. Jay-Z consistently leans on that particular point that I did it. You know, that wasn't always the case. You know, we never questioned whether Sugar Hill Gang really rode Cadillacs. We didn't know, we didn't care. It was fly to say it. Point blank, we just liked it. It was just like, that's just cool. We didn't really care if they was doing it or not. Whereas now, it's taking on a different light where, okay, well, you really had to have been shot. Have you ever been shot? Well, then you can't, you know, it's like, it's taking on this real thing, quote unquote, and that's where it's extremely dangerous. Not only that, you couple that with the power of rap music today, and compared to the blues, never was on this level. Never was on this level. The amount of people you could reach in one tweet has never been repeated in history. You couldn't reach that many people at one time. You reach one person with a